You're listening to The Bounding Box, where we talk about web development, geo development, and everything in between. All right, welcome to The Bounding Box. And today I'm joined by a special guest, Megan Coate. So, Megan, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, what you work on, and what your problem is.
Hey, Renee. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Super appreciate it. So, my name is Megan. I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina. Um, I went to school in North Carolina as well, at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Funny story, I have two bachelors. They're both in archaeology, one in classical, one in historical, and then went on to get my degree and my master's in GIS remote sensing. And then a little further on in life, moved up here in New Jersey. And so that's kind of where I've been ever since.
That's cool. I didn't know you had an archaeology background. That's awesome. That was the interest in GIS because of archaeology? Like you got into it at some point there?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So what was going on is we were doing these sites and, doing excavations, which by the way, I loved excavating. I loved archaeology. So one day we're on the site and I'm pulling out some artifacts and they bring in the total station to map in these points. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Can I try? And they're like, yeah, come on, give it a go. So they let me work with the total station and map in these uh, pieces of pottery in our site. And then we take it back to the lab. And after putting those points from the total station into a software, I'm pretty sure it was Arc Desktop, maybe it was AutoCAD. I was like, man, just brings everything full circle, bringing together like people out in the real world, their lives, and then mapping their lives and then seeing it on the computer and being able to collect data, make models, make maps. I was like, yeah, this is it for me. So that's when I decided to pursue the GIS further, and I have been enjoying it ever since.
That's cool. I guess I never really thought about using GIS in archaeology. I guess that's one field that probably don't interact with people too much doing that, but it makes sense, right? If you're digging somewhere, you kind of want to lay out where you might find some stuff, and then from there, maybe estimate where you might find more stuff, I suppose, right? Given certain
Exactly.
conditions.
Totally.
That's awesome. So that's how you got into GIS. I mean, from there, where do you work now? That you're working on?
So before right out of college, I was hired with a private engineer company and I loved it. And then I was able to be like a subcontractor through NCDIT. So I was working in transportation data for the past, I don't know, is that maybe 4 years? And I just recently changed over into solar renewable energy. And let me tell you the difference in workload and like pace between going from something like government work to like private sector work. And I did that just to kind of for a change of, everything. It's nice to just have a change of scenery once in a while and just kind of put your skills to use in other ways. And doing GIS and solar, like mapping out where potential solar sites could be, looking at wetlands, slope, like all the geotechnical things. It's really interesting just how it's needed
Mhm.
because before just going out there and putting maybe a site without doing any sort of background, just maybe like a preliminary walkthrough. I guess it was catastrophic when it got to development and construction. And it's like, this was a terrible place to put a solar farm. So,
Oh, wow.
and again, I think that's what makes GIS so incredible is that you can apply it to almost any sort of field that you are working in. And it just amazes me that when people look at things like Google Maps, when they're planning their vacations or they're doing research about where to buy their next home, people are doing GIS and they just don't even know it. And that's, again, one of my favorite things. So I get to apply that once again to my work, just kind of looking and being a detective, trying to find the best sites for the company. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I guess it's so ingrained in like what people do these days, whether they're looking to buy a house, determine where to send their kids to school, just where to go shopping, type of thing. You don't really think about it. That's all geographic stuff that gets applied to things.
Exactly.
I mean, you used to be able to bust out the old map book and kind of figure out where things go, and even then, that was kind of like you need no directions, get to an index page and stuff, and work your way around. And
Mhm.
now we're so used to just pick up our phones and doing it, we don't even think about it most of the time.
No, it totally. And I think that's what makes it so up and coming. People are really starting to see like, okay, everything is so spatial and we need to know like where our data is and, how to store the data. And it's just really becoming, I don't want to say trendy, but people are really starting to notice the importance of spatial data
I'm always
in GIS.
surprised. I work the booths a lot at like the Esri User Conference or Developer Summit. And I think mostly Esri User Conference, I get some really interesting use cases of people doing things like mapping the brain, for example, and they're using that there, or um, ocean floors is really cool. We see that quite a bit now.
Mhm.
Some deep ocean stuff, and then geometric, 3D elements in the ocean, right? So they take a slice of an ocean area of the ocean and look at what's happening there. Right? I thought that was really cool. I'm like, wow, that's neat. I don't do that, but that's very cool.
No, that mapping the brain, I used to hang a lot in Clubhouse and there was some really interesting people on there who were actively developing their theory of, mapping the human brain.
Hmm.
And it just, you want to talk about mind blowing?
Yeah,
It was blowing.
like I have no clue how they make it all work. Custom coordinate systems and everything, just to kind of get things flowing, all these different connections, and like that's awesome. I don't know how I can help you, but that's awesome. Now, one of the other things I see that you are interested in is drones. Right? I've seen you post quite a bit of drones, and I'm not sure if that's just from a class you're taking. You got a drone at some point, but let's talk about that. What are you using your drones for?
So, my partner, Luis, he has a business here in New Jersey. And so he is really like my drone person. But yeah, so I became interested using drones, I think back in working with the DOT for emergency response management. And so from there, that was all I really did with it. And then moving here and seeing how he uses the drones, now it's like we just use drones for everything. So, you know, whether that's mapping or 3D modeling, one of the drones that we have is the Agris T10, which is a huge spraying drone used for precision agriculture,
Huh.
being able to do field prescriptions, kind of looking at the crop, whether that's just with some aerial imagery and then like thermal sensing and being able to make these prescriptions to see, okay, well, this part of my crop is dying or this part is really healthy, and just being able to make prescription maps for, where we can spray these chemicals to help the farmers just how to run their farm in a better and more efficient way. And it's interesting because I think when it comes to drones in agriculture, which is just my main interest with them, I think they're really going to change the way we farm. I think the food crisis is going to be something that's going to have to be addressed here within the next couple years or so. And being able to change up how we make food and to just make more efficient ways of farming,
Mhm.
I think it's going to be super important. So I think by using the drones, it cuts back on human cost, on air, on gasoline for like the farm trucks. And it's just another way to think about how we do something every day, with a little bit of help from the drones. But yeah, I did go and get my FAA Part 107. That test was brutal, let me tell you.
Oh, wow.
The FAA just wants to trick you. But,
That's neat.
So
I
that,
mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, because we hear, especially now, I'm hearing a lot about like, satellite imagery and how valuable all that is. But when you think about if you own a farm, you can't specifically ask for a satellite to do certain types of imagery over your farm. I mean, maybe you could, but I imagine the costs probably be just outrageous for something like that. Um,
yes,
so managing,
yeah,
so getting so finding someone that can do it with drone imagery, and you get a highly detailed mapping of your property with the type of imagery you want. That's super valuable.
it is. And let me tell you something that I've learned since leaving my previous job is data is not easy to get. It
Hmm.
is not easily accessible to the public. If you go out, and I think this is just, I don't know why this is such a problem. Maybe this is my problem. Um, that finding aerial imagery is good aerial imagery is hard. And when you can't find it, and when you find these contractors or these other companies that are willing to go out there and, either collect the data or you get it from the satellite, it is ridiculously expensive.
Yeah,
Ridiculously expensive. And so I just don't understand why, we have so many satellites and we have all these resources, and I just don't understand why it's still so expensive. And maybe that'll come down as the market floods with drones and people are maybe deciding to go collect their own data.
yeah.
Um, Things like aerial imagery and even parcels, just getting parcel data.
Parcel data is such a pain sometimes. I mean, all that is supposed to be free, but there's nothing saying that they have to make it easy to get to.
Right. And that's what I thought too. I thought, all county parcel data was free. And then, like, leaving the county, I'm like, no, it's not free. And again, getting a company to get you that, POI data, it's just expensive. And I think that's, something that should be addressed within the community is why is the data so expensive and why is the data
Yeah.
so hard to get?
So back when I did my master's thesis, I did it on the city of Industry, which is a city out here in Southern California that is pure industrial. Almost. They have like a population of 80 of some sort. So I called and asked if I could get some mapping data, shape files, PDFs, anything. And they told
Mhm.
me, no, if you want to see the maps, you have to come into the office and you could look at our book. So I had to do that. I had to go down there. And they gave me a book. I couldn't leave with it. They couldn't give me a copy of it. And I had to sit there and take pictures of everything I needed to use, which was interesting. And I was like, well, okay, I understand. I was working at a county job at that point, but I didn't realize that some places made it that difficult to get data.
Yes. No, and again, I understand why they make you do that, but just having the access to get the data you want, it's so challenging. When people say, "Okay, make me a map of this," so much easier said than done, right?
Exactly. So I also want to touch on I guess the first place I discovered you was on TikTok among the burgeoning GIS crowd on TikTok. So what was your interest in that? And then how do you find that platform works out for you in the community?
So I think, again, as GIS becomes more popular and more mainstream, I think that I'm finding more students on TikTok. I get a lot of comments that are like, "Hey, I'm doing this. I'm getting, a degree in environmental science with a minor in GIS, or I'm doing cartography." and GIS, do you have any advice? And I'm just now starting to get those comments. I don't know when I started doing TikTok, probably like in 2020. Um, but I was not getting
Hmm.
that comments at all. I wasn't getting any comments. Um, but I'm finding that it's picking up, and I just don't know if it's the wider reach or if people are just becoming more interested in GIS. But I think it's important to be able to have a community. I think having a GIS community is incredibly important. Um, I feel like the strongest area of GIS communities are probably on Twitter and maybe LinkedIn. And I was like, why is that? Why is it just on these platforms that maybe LinkedIn, because okay, maybe we're just all very professional people and that's
Hmm.
where we share our work. And on Twitter, it's, we're just kind of connected because we do the same thing. But being able to kind of post videos of how to, because I know when I was in school and I was trying to run like a geoprocessing tool and an ArcMap, like I'd be Googling on YouTube how to calculate slope or, and the videos were just, not quite out there. So I was like, well, I have some free time and this is what I like. And if maybe this can help one person with, trying to solve a problem that they have, then that's great. And just being able to build that sense of community, and because people who do GIS are incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
I
They come from a lot of different varied fields and stuff, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, TikTok is interesting. I guess maybe it's like the way the algorithm works, and it's noticing that there are students, and I don't know what it reads off their phones, maybe that sees that they have a geography class or GIS class, and they go, "Oh, we'll show you this video here," right? So that's cool though. That's great that you're getting some feedback on from students on wanting to learn more, and it helps too because I know I've been in a position where I'm trying to learn something or figure out how to do something, and I'm reading it, and it should make sense, but until I actually see like someone do it or see something in action, like, oh, that makes perfect sense now. I get it. I don't know what was blocking me from understanding it just reading it, but now I get it.
No, yeah, I'm one of those people as well where I have to see it
Yeah,
and then I have to do it. Reading it and doing it is it's two different things entirely.
exactly. And talking about community too. I mean, you started GIS Discord, right? And if I'm not wrong, you've got over 3,000 members in Discord right now.
That is correct. So I started the Discord in 2020, um, COVID full swing, and I had just found TikTok and I was looking at some people who were doing coding. And at that point in time, my coding skills were not great. And so I come across this guy's page and he's like, yeah, join my Discord. You can help us, or you can learn improve your Python skills, which is what I wanted to do. I'm like, okay, what is Discord? So I joined his community and it was great. And so I found out that you can join multiple servers. And I'm like, man, I wonder if there's any mapping, GIS, ArcGIS servers. And so just doing like a basic search, there are mapping servers, but a lot of them are like fantasy maps,
Hmm.
like alternate reality. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool because you still have to make the maps and like it's Lord of the Ring vibes. And I like that. But I was really looking for something more GIS. So I was like, I'm just going to make my own and see what happens. So I decided to start my own server and I pulled in two of the guys from the fantasy map server that I was in. I was like, "Hey, I'm making this server. Do you guys want to be my mods? I don't think anything will come of it. We might have like 100 members. It'll be a super easy server to mod." They're like, "Yeah, yeah, that sounds good." And I think like overnight we got like 200 members just
Wow.
from but yeah, one of the mods is my main mod. He's still there, but again, just having a place where people can go share their work, talk about GIS things, coding, maps, projects, presentations. I just really wanted people to have that space because, again, having a sense of community and being able to share your ideas and your thoughts outside of work, even though we might still be talking about your work, it's
Exactly.
important,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
super helpful. Just kind of bounce ideas off each other, or you got a quick question, right? You can't quite find an answer to somewhere. It's really nice to get input from other people. That's great.
Hmm.
It works out really nice. I enjoy it a lot.
Oh, thank you.
I'm definitely, I don't post too often. I don't have too many questions most of the time. If I did more like mapping focused stuff, I probably would. But I'm mostly dev these days. But I do try to help out too. If I ever see something I can answer, I'll drop in there or something like that. But yeah, it's nice to go in there and see what people are doing.
It is, and my favorite thing about the server is being able to see how these people have grown. So like the members who have joined, when they were finishing up school or were in school, now they've graduated and they have jobs and
Hmm.
they've moved, they're starting like a business and just being able to, like these people are my friends.
Oh, that's
Like they
awesome.
I know them and it's just a good community.
Cool. All right, Megan. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, but I do want to ask if you have any tips, tricks, or advice for anybody listening out there.
Um, I would say for anyone who is interested in doing GIS or wants to learn more about GIS or how to, maybe you're looking for a job, I would just say one, things like beefing up your LinkedIn is always a good idea. Um, Looking at these free courses on the art catalog. They have tons of resources if you're looking for how to do some of these processes. And yeah, just being able to join these communities and ask questions. Just asking questions is going to help you just get to know what you want to know.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you for listening to the Boundary Box today. Please subscribe for more content.